Craig Adams here from weddingfilmschool.com, and today I'm going to show you how to shoot a first look. So this is one that I shot, and let's just watch it right here. So it was two filmmakers. This was my angle. Everything was pretty good except for the wind was tough with the audio, and then my shot here was kind of overexposed. So you can tell big differences between these different angles here, and it's tough with the direct sunlight, but everything worked well. I would have liked these shots to be a little smoother. I don't know what this wiggle is. We had a stationary third camera. The wind was intense. It was a great reaction. We were in our spots, and the photographers were very, very good. You know, they totally on the same page as us.
That's new, man.
Okay, so real quick, let's just look at those angles and kind of a bird's eye view of what happened there. So you can see these are my cameras. So this was my second shooter. This was me. I moved over here, and then we had this stationary wide. So this is like a typical first look. You know, all in all, you could resort to this, and with two people and three cameras, you can shoot just one run through and cover it pretty well, in my opinion. And this is like a very basic, standard way to shoot a first look. There's a bunch of different ways, and you can add crazy angles and do crazy stuff, especially if you get a glide cam in the mix. But a lot of that will require a second run through. So you let them meet for the first look and capture the emotion and just let it happen. And then you can have them do it again, and it's never quite the same, but you can get those close-ups and those details and the slides and the tap on the shoulder, and like you can get all those additional angles the second time. But I usually just do one. So let's talk about the 180. The rule, you kind of follow the 180 just to make sense of the viewer as far as switching angles. The 180 depends on a lot of different things, the location, the number of cameras, and then the number of subjects as well. So the typical rule is that you set one camera. So let's just say I set this first, and then the 180 rule is balanced by where you place the second camera. So if I have this one over here and then I have my second camera over here, that creates these two lines of where your camera is facing. And then technically you could shoot anywhere within this degree, you know. I forget, I don't know what, it's like 270 or something. But you could shoot over here, you could definitely shoot over here, and you can shoot over here. But if you're over here, you run the risk of being in people's angles. And if you have any camera angles shooting back from this area towards the subjects or anywhere in general, it's going to be very disorienting to the viewer. So it's important to work with your photographers to set up exactly what's going to happen at what time and what direction, especially, you know, if you have the control, you're placing the groom face this way, why not make it work for everyone? So that's why it's good to get on the same page as the photographers. So, and then this third angle really doesn't matter because it falls within this this degree. So technically this camera could have been over here, you know, shooting. Of course you're going to start to get into other angles with each other right here, but like this wouldn't be disorienting if you cut between these two angles. So yeah, okay. So the bride is walking this way, the groom is obviously facing this way. I'm just going to show you the first angle that we got there. So this is the second camera's angle, and this is the groom reaction shot, as you can see. And typically on a 70 to 200 it works, but whatever, you know, you could go tight, you could go wide, but it typically is good to stay a little further back and stable. The IS in the 70 to 200 is good. Tripod or monopod, I would say tripod for this one because it's more static and it's more, they're not moving. I like to have my second do the master shot, the shot that we need. Like they just stay put, they get that shot no matter what. I'll be the one moving and dictating when I can move to get different shots and angles, getting what I want, not what I need. So yeah, that he just maintains that waiting groom. You know, that's the first thing that we see in the first look. And then the second angle here is what I was shooting, and like I said, it was a little overexposed, but you can see the bride coming. I probably could have been a little tighter, but I was also on a 70-200 on a monopod, and that's typically what you want. You want 270-200-ish lenses, focal lengths with your cameras on monopods or tripods at that point. I would say monopod for this because you definitely have that move. So yeah, you're getting him waiting. You can rack focus from her to him or him to her. It's up to you. You know, you typically want to get her, so it's usually best to just stay with her, but to get him like real quick for 4 seconds and then go back to her. And he's like waiting and you see her coming. This is a great angle. You can keep that for a while. So then the next angle is this wide. So I typically like to go low. The lower the better with wide angles, in my opinion, just because it shows more of like what's above. And so that was a 24mm just on a low tripod. And I put this little dash shears because if you have a third person, or if you could leave this unmanned, just leave it on a tripod, my second shooter technically could have ran over here, did a real quick slide as she was walking towards him right at this moment. That would have looked really cool. It's like what I call my Wes Anderson. They're slightly off, but I like to have them perpendicular to the focal length, I don't know, the camera. So technically, if this was on a tripod, he could have ran over, done that, and then ran back. But he didn't. It's fine. Static is fine. So for this angle, you're not directly perpendicular to this line here of where she's walking. You're slightly at a 45, because if you were matched with this over here, you might be out of the frame if you're tight enough, but you're not going to get a good angle from that tight of an approach. You want to be slightly 45-degree here, just so that you can see kind of, you know, both of them as they look at each other. Because what happens is when this angle, when he turns, like we kind of have him blocking her face and her angle. So that's why this camera has to move. Okay, so once again, this is what this angle looks good because you're slightly at a 45 and you're not she's not hiding his face. So this stays right here the whole time. That's the shot that we need to maintain. And then once again, this wide is just getting a nice like big negative space. I love that, of just the bride and groom, showing the big grandness that you can pull away for a minute. And then this shot is after I relocated, and you can see like even at this angle you can just kind of get to see her face. So you can imagine if I was over here, nah, you're not going to see anything. So yeah, I quickly just make a little move, get a little tighter, different angle, just to show the emotion and her face, just to focus on that. And as long as, you know, one camera is static, you can make as many moves as you want. So this, I know this camera's staying, I know this camera's staying, so I can definitely move. So as far as photographers, like I said, you know, if they're in this quadrant, they're extra good. If they're in this one, they're okay. This camera may get them if they move over towards this area. Same thing with this over here. If the photographers are over here, this camera may see them, but I could make a move to go tighter to hide them. But if anything is in this area, you know, it's gonna ruin my shot. And it's not that fun to have that happen, especially when you talk about it beforehand and it happens anyway. So hopefully this tells you a little bit about, you know, a basic standard way to shoot a first look. And if you're a photographer, kind of gives you an insight into what we're doing and how you can easily, you know, work with us and make sure that everyone gets the shot that we can, because there's plenty of room in those 3 quadrants to get the photos you need, so why not? So now I'm going to show you an example of a wedding where the first look didn't go as well. I was shooting by myself, which that's the first problem, you know, and then I had 2 photographers who I don't think understood. I don't think we were on the same page. I'm not going to blame them because there's no point in that, but so let's just watch it and I'll kind of start and stop as I see things. So I had some time with the groom. We placed him. First off, his head is blocked. This isn't the best spot to put him, honestly. And like, you know, there's beauty in mountains and trees and flowers all around, but I feel like we just didn't pick a good 180 spot, you know, we just didn't pick. So I got him waiting. I like to get this like tension. All right, so first off, she's in, you know, the bad quadrant. So pertaining to where I have my second cam, I'm over on in front of the groom, and where she is just doesn't work because my angle sees it. You know, I had to crop a ton in to get rid of her in that shot, and I actually had to do some masking to eliminate her. You know, we could have switched to the other side, but I thought that this whole vista was pretty beautiful, and you know, it just depends. So she's there for most of the first look, and then so you can't really see it. I'll kind of show you a little bit more of the behind the scenes here, but we have people in the background. We have her blocked by this tree, and it's kind of like a narrow gap that she has to go through. So she's actually going to go on the other side, the wrong side. And we have these people in the background. He turns the, you know, he turns the way that would have been good for my angle, but it's the wrong, like the photographers, he turned for the wrong side for the photographers. And it would have been better to have him placed over on this side of my wide angle so that she walks all the way across the frame, and then it just would have made more sense as far as headroom for him. But I have this tree in the way, and that just didn't work, and that's my placement, you know. And then right where they meet right here, this tree is in the way again, you know, for this angle. And the entire time I am scrambling to try to get a better angle myself, so I'll show you a little bit more behind the scenes here. So once again, this is that problem we talked about. You know, there's too small of an angle of approach here on where they're walking, so he's blocking her face. So I'm like, oh crap, let's move. This is me moving. The 70 to 200 on a monopod, just being like, oh. And I still, like, where I moved, like, still isn't even a good angle. And their audio is great, it's just the video isn't as good. So she finally opened up a little bit here. Like, it would have been better to be on the other side. Like, we're getting emotion. This would have been great to have.
You look so beautiful.
And, like, you know, it just didn't work. So that's communication, it's placement, it's really just communication. I needed to talk to the photographers. We needed an extra 5 or 10 more minutes just to figure out exactly where a better place and what better angles and placement would have been. But yeah, and it's also tough shooting by yourself. So alright, well, that'll do it for today. I hope you learned something, but if you have any comments or questions, please let me know in the section below. See you. Sync in 3, 2